Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today we'll be talking about the Switch 2's first year, kind of like a little mini review, if you will. Yes, everybody's on doing these, but I thought, you know what, actually, I kind of just want to talk about this hardware and just how much I've got the enjoyment out of it that I think that I wanted when the Switch 2 was announced. We're going to go over the hardware first, and then we're going to talk about the games and things like that, because I think it's both worth bringing up both parts of it and kind of comparing those to the Switch and what we've gained from that, basically. So, the hardware of the Switch 2 was, for me personally, exactly what I wanted. I really liked the form factor of the Switch, I really liked what the Switch was offering, and I wanted a more powerful Switch. And with the Switch 2, we got that. We have 12 gigabytes of RAM instead of 4. We had a faster version of Wi-Fi for quicker downloads. We had a bigger screen with higher resolutions and a higher refresh rate. 4K output docked. We had I say bigger built-in storage. It technically was bigger built-in storage, but 256, I guess, for a lot of people isn't a lot. So we got more storage, but maybe not, we didn't get to the 500 gig that maybe people wanted. We did get faster SD card speeds, and we got better audio quality out of the speakers on this thing. The sounds on this stuff is incredible. All of that was kind of what I wanted. You know, that's even before we get into the controls and stuff like that. The actual hardware, this tablet that this thing is, what it's capable of doing, and was really kind of damn, this really is an improvement on the Switch 1. Right, the hardware might not be the most up-to-date stuff compared to, say, some of the other PC handhelds that have been coming out, but in this country, which is £430 at the time of buying it, when I bought it back in the day with the bundle, I think it was $430 or $450 with Mario Kart World. I got a really, what I feel is a premium quality machine with an improvement on just about everything on the thing itself, in terms of audio and speeds, and everything about it was just significantly better. And I think the big jumps really made a difference to it. On top of that, we got, the whole system itself was bigger, so we got bigger Joy-Cons, which are way more comfortable to hold. The Joy-Cons have some of the best, they've got really nice sticks on them. The buttons are really good, they feel better to hold. Both ZL and ZR feel really good. You've obviously got the magnetic part of them, and that whole thing, being able to magnetically pop off the controllers and put them on, feels so much better. They feel like they're not going to fall off. And one feature that I personally like about the Joy-Con is the fact that you can hold them on their side and turn them into mouse mode. I think that was such a cool addition. I would love to see more games use it, honestly, but playing games like Metroid Prime 4 with the first-person controls on it, super cool. Playing games like Civilization 7 with it, being able to use it like a mouse, very, very cool. So we got improvements in so many different areas with this hardware that it's hard to even go back to the Switch 1 now and go, I love the Switch 1 Pro controller, for example, and then you use the Switch 2 one. The Switch 2 Pro controller feels incredible just to hold. It's something about this controller that's, it feels firm, but the plastic feels really nice. To hold. The sticks are incredible on this. The buttons, everything about it. It's just, this controller, the Pro controller, is just awesome. Nintendo did such a good job with this. Never had a single issue with it. All of the stuff, hardware-wise, amazing. And you got to think the Pro controller got a headphone jack. It got GL and GR programmable buttons. We got that sort of nice plastic on it. They said the sticks and the D-pad and the buttons all felt really good. We did get a lot of this was more expensive, but it feels like everything was super premium. And now when you go back and use a Switch 1 and everything like that, you go, ooh, this does feel a little cheap, in comparison. And I think that's something that I've really come to appreciate over the last year, is just how premium this product feels. In terms of controls, screen quality, all that sort of stuff. I know that there have been issues with the stream in terms of ghosting and stuff, but I don't play a lot in handheld, but when I do, when I played Metroid Prime 4 and stuff, I'm this is just phenomenal. I have zero complaints. And on top of that, what new features did we get with the Switch 2? Well, we got game chat, something that I personally haven't used because I don't know many people that have a Switch 2 other than myself, but the fact that they built in, this voice chat function, it seems pretty good both on the Switch and on the controller, I believe. I think the controller's got a microphone on it. And on top of that, you had the camera that was fairly decent. The things that they've been doing with like Mario Kart, Mario Party Jamboree, they're going to be doing with Star Fox, you know, these uses and incorporating these things. I know that maybe these functions aren't getting as used as most people wanted, but like it's kind of nuts that they actually did go through with it and allowed you to use these functions and have that, added to it. We got an improved eShop. It's not like miles and miles better, but it loads a hell of a lot faster and your downloads are much, much quicker. So that was a huge benefit. We also got boost mode. For boost handheld mode, I believe it's called, got added to the system not too long ago, which allows you to play Switch 1 games, stick this mode on. When you play them in handheld, they would play like they were plugged into the dock, which gave massive boosts to most games, which was really incredible. That was like, that whole thing. What else we got? Got more GameCube games got added. We've had like more of that backwards compatibility functionality added to like Switch 1 games. Like pretty much most Switch 1 games work now. Any bugs and stuff that Nintendo have been working on, trying to make the entirety of that library work. I feel like I'm missing one of the functions of this system that got added, but you see my point. There was a lot of stuff that was added to the system to help allow players to move over seamlessly, because it allowed you to play all your old Switch 1 games and all of your account, everything that was tied to your account came straight across. It's incredible. Like, I'm glad that Nintendo did that. Like, say what you want about a company, this was the smart thing. I think Microsoft do a good job of it as well, where they allow a lot of backwards compatibility stuff, because I have a hell of a back catalogue which I'm working through, and honestly, being able to do that on the Switch and get like a natural boost to a lot of those games is much loved. So let's talk about the games. The games are obviously the big thing of buying a system, and it's been interesting because we've had essentially, like what Nintendo said to start with, 3 different factions or line throughs of the games. You had the actual Switch 2 games, you've had Switch 2 editions, and then you've got Switch 2 games that have been boosted by patches. So we start with the games themselves. Just some examples of games that have come out. We had DK Bonanza, we had Mario Kart World, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, Kirby Air Riders, Drag X Drive, just some of the first party stuff, right? And then on the third party side, we've had Cyberpunk, we've had Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy Remake and Rebirth, Star Wars Outlaws, Civilization 7, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, and there's a ton of indies and a ton more games that came out to it. Now, a lot of those games I've listed, I've either played or got, and I am being incredibly happy with my experience playing most of these games. You guys know on this channel that like DK Bonanza and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond are 2 of my favourite games on the system. Mario Kart World I think has issues, but is still a very, very solid game. Street Fighter 6 is an incredible port. Like, it very doesn't even skimp on much considering what they've had to like do to make it run. You wouldn't know much of a difference unless you put them side by side. Cyberpunk is like a technical marvel piece. Final Fantasy Remake, which I'm still playing through, very, very good. Star Wars Outlaws I've heard has got some of the best ray tracing. Civ 7 is a really good version, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 is just an absolute blast. And so you've got this library. I'm not saying that like it's the best library in terms of first party and third party of all time, but I would say that there's always been something to play. There's always been a good chunk of games. Most ports are really good. There's things like Pragmata and Resident Evil 9 that are apparently very good ports. There's so many good games coming out on this system that are like brand new games. We're not just getting old games. These are brand new games. And honestly, like, Nintendo still will be putting out at some point a Zelda, at some point a Mario. But what they have put there, like DK Bonanza was awesome. Metroid Prime 4, while divisive, for me personally was awesome. Mario Kart World for some people is awesome. Like, these games are really good quality across the board, and it's just like great. Now we've got some of these small, like, Donkey Kong and Metroid aren't the biggest things. Kirby Air Riders definitely isn't. But the fact that we've got something a bit different, I'm actually kind of glad, because it means that when we do get to Zelda, when we do get to Mario, and anything else that the big guns come out, like, I'm like, oh, nice. I was glad that these other games got their shot. We move on to Switch 2 editions. We've got things like Xenoblade Chronicles X Switch 2 edition. Not the best example, definitely has some issues, but I like it. The fact that I can play the game at 60 frames, awesome. With both Zelda, in terms of Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, got Switch 2 editions. Smaller on the side, but the games run significantly better. Massive upgrade. It's like night and day playing those games. Kirby and the Forgotten Land got a whole new sort of expansion to it. Mario Party Jamboree also got like an expansion. Super Mario Wonder Meet at Bella Bell Park got a big expansion. These Switch 2 editions are a great way of filling in gaps and allowing people that haven't played those games to get a version of it with even more content. Or if you're like me and you bought most of them, you get to play those games and now experience the new content. These have been like the filler, if you will, to some of the bigger drops, and I'm really glad that some of these games are getting a second lease of life, especially Kirby and the Forgotten Land. That game is incredible. It's one of the best Switch 1 games, and the fact that now they've like higher frame rate, more content. That game is a summer game through and through. You should definitely play that if you haven't. But these things, I really appreciate it. That, you know, Xenoblade Chronicles X coming to Switch was cool in the first place. Like, oh, they're all on one system, amazing. Now here you go. Like, yes, it's not been the best version. I'm sure it will get patched, but the fact that I can play this big sprawling RPG at a high frame rate, like, I'm really grateful for that. And then the last lot of games was the Switch 2 games that got patches that were not paid for. And the best examples of this were Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom. 2 games that had very much like issues running on Switch 1 because of the double buffer VSync thing, and then they got massive patches and they run significantly better. And there's tons of games like that. So if you own like a lot of first party Nintendo stuff, a lot of it, like ARMS got an update, Game Builder Garage got an update. Like, there was tons of Switch 1 games, especially first party ones, that got these big updates. I say big updates, they weren't big in that sense, but like big enough to be like, here's a reason to play this game again. You know, better frame rate, higher resolution. In Game Builder Garage's thing, here's mouse mode. Like, it's super cool knowing that some of these games are like, we're not going to touch them, but we will make them run better. And you get that with a Switch 2, and I'm super grateful for that, because something like Echoes of Wisdom, where I got about halfway through the game and never finished it, I can go back and play that and pick up where I left off, and the game will just be running so much better, right? And sometimes that's all you need to make it like a game go, like, to be that incredible thing. It's just a smooth, buttery, silky performance. Hey, you're gonna make it run at higher resolutions on the handheld. Hey, you're gonna run at 120 frames instead, for FPS instead of like 60. That's awesome. I love the fact that across the board we've got this. And then on top of that, Nintendo's been doing that GameCube games, their Virtual Console stuff, Virtual Boy stuff. There's a bunch of that as well. I definitely think that this system, within its first year, has done a very damn good job of convincing me that I really, really enjoy this product. And I do. I know it's not for everybody, because they're still waiting for a Smash Brothers, a Mario game, a Zelda game, probably an Animal Crossing, like some of the big hitters. And I get that, and those games are clearly going to be coming, and with any luck we'll soon find out what Nintendo are working on. We've got Fire Emblem coming as well, which is like a fairly decent series. But for me personally, the first year of Switch 2 has been great. Just through DK Bonanza and Metro Prime 4 Beyond being 2 of the best games I've played last year, 2 of the best games that I've played on a Nintendo system. Like, I am super grateful for that. And then, like, when I get my third party feel, when I get to play things like Street Fighter 6 and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Cyberpunk, I'm like, wow, I've got these experiences on this very capable piece of hardware, and I am super, super grateful for it. It's not all been sunshine and rainbows. There have definitely been issues with this in terms of some of the game output people could argue hasn't been amazing. Like quote unquote heavy hitters. Some of the Switch 2 editions haven't been amazing compared to some of the others, like the quality's up and down. You know, even like maybe not an improvement to the UI as much, or maybe not an improvement to the eShop as much. But honestly, I find a lot of that to be minor. For me personally, I'm super happy with the first year of the Switch. I hope that Nintendo does start to bring some of the big guns. Like, personally, I'd like to see things like F-Zero and Advance Wars and these other series that aren't the big guns, because I think they can do more interesting stuff with them. I think that those are series that deserve to have more games output, you know, rather than just, we know Mario's going to sell, we know Zelda's going to sell kind of thing, but like, let's have some of those other series. Nintendo have been better at that recently, especially with the Switch, at looking at games like that. So, you know, my fingers are crossed that we'll get like other games coming to it. Another Mario Strikers would be nice. I'd be down for that. So, you know, Punch Out would be cool. There's a lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to this generation of this console and what it can bring and what we'll see with it and what Nintendo will do with it themselves and what third-party games. Like, I would love to see Doom the Dark Ages come to Switch 2. That would be awesome. So, there's my fairly glowing review of the Nintendo Switch 2. You know, within its first year, I am very happy and very satisfied, and that I got the product that I personally wanted, which was a better Switch. Maybe next time Nintendo does need to maybe contemplate mixing it up a bit and doing something a little different. It's a bit safe for them, I get that. But I am very happy and very grateful that we have what we have. So, anyway, guys, that will do it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you like the video, please hit the like button. That helps out a ton. If you want to see more content on Switch and Switch games and things like that, please hit the subscribe button. Stick around, and loads more of that will be coming. And until next video, I will see you then.